ready to bless God, motherfucker! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another thrilling episode of Atheist Church Audit. My name's Jared, blah, blah, blah. This week, I went to the Bless God Summit, Year 2. For those who are unaware, uninformed, or unenlightened, the Bless God Summit is a big evangelical conference thrown by Ruslan, the big evangelical YouTuber. And if you know me, you know that I'm not an evangelical. The shirt is a gag. It's a meme. So this is the second year that I went to the Bless God Summit. Last year, Alex O'Connor was the shining star of the atheist community, and he was the esteemed atheist guest. And he invited me out there so that Alex O'Connor didn't feel like the lone atheist holding down the fort. And so this year, I took his mantle. I took the anointing of Alex O'Connor, and I persevered through seas of evangelicals, held down the fort for disbelief. And what made it even more fun is that I got to bring along my buddy Cade. Cade Bradley is a wildly smart human being and a debater. He's an ex-Catholic, and most importantly, he's a homie. And I've got to be so candid up front. This truly is like the cream of the crop in terms of quality of speakers, funness, and just vibes. It's very, very high praise. This ain't your backwoods Baptist Friday night potluck and revival. This is true Christian YouTube royalty. Gavin Ortland, Shawn McDow, God Logic, who else was there? Wes Huff, the Backstreet Boys. Maybe they're Christian now. I don't know. Mike Winger, the Apostle Paul, and Diplo. Diplo is there. He's a Christian now, so he gets a mic and gets to say things. And it was a non-stop smattering of Christian teaching and sessions and worship music. It was every ex-evangelical's worst nightmare, and I weathered the storm like a salty pirate of tumultuous waters of deconstruction. I hate this bit. I'm so sorry. I'm at like 11 right now, and I'm a cringy YouTuber, and even I'm wincing at myself. Sorry. So let's set the stage for what this thing is. This was like a 5-ish 100-person convention in Oceanside, California. Ooh-wee! Lovely, beautiful, stunning. And people from all over the country, nay, all over the world, have come here to hear these speakers bump shoulders with the influencers and YouTubers they like, and talk about the Lord. And even though the vast majority of these people are evangelicals, there was a tiny bit of ecumenicism. Cade and I were the only atheists there on site, I think, but there was at least a couple of talks by some Orthodox folk, I think, and Trent Horn was there giving a panel discussion on Catholicism versus Protestantism. And then one of the highlights of the whole event was watching Jacob Hansen debate God Logic on is the Trinity in the Bible.
You give them life, and the heavenly host bows down to you. Who is that?
Who?
Yeah.
So that's Yahweh in this case is a who?
That's what I'm asking.
There's only one who that people bow to?
Is it a who?
Is it a who? Mm-hmm. No, Yahweh in this case is a what, because it's referring to the one what?
Oh, the one what. And what does this one what consist of?
3 persons.
And then this conference was a big deal for me because I was a guest speaker.
And Jared Smith.
Kind of, sort of. Like, they didn't just give me free reign to go and freestyle on stage. I was on a panel discussion with Shawn McDow and Ruslan, which kind of ended up becoming Shawn McDow asking me questions. It was a good time. I'll talk about it more in a bit. I had a really wonderful time. I had an absolutely incredible time. And that's primarily because I really like people. And I'm totally comfortable being the odd man in the room, the black sheep, the needle in the haystack, or the big, gigantic pile of shit in a flower field. That being said, I do have some very, very, very real criticisms that I will get to at the end of this video. I say all of that to say, don't let my excitement about the event sound like complicity or culpability with regards to these people's content. More on that later. I think we should start with a point of order. When I say the word evangelical, you might have some very, very, very bad connotations of the word, and understandably. However, when I'm using the word, I'm not ascribing to it a lot of the cultural baggage that it normally has. When I talk about evangelicals, I am talking about people who adhere to a certain set of Christian doctrines, Christian Protestant doctrines, the evangelical quadrilateral, somewhere around here, the beliefs that make up evangelicals, these four things. Now, some of the largest baggage that you might be associating with this thing is MAGA. And this event certainly could not be described as MAGA. Some of the people here could be described as MAGA, but if all evangelicals are lumped into one big bucket, then you lose a whole lot of the gradation here that makes going to something like this as an atheist really interesting. I talked to one Latter-day Saint who is like an unabashed Trump fanboy, and then I talked to another Latter-day Saint who was mortified by it. I talked to some people in the green room who were ardent Zionists, and then some who were ardently pro-Palestine. I even met a few people who were like quietly pro-choice. Oh, can you say that? Is that allowed? Is that a thing? Now, I'm not trying to paint this thing as a bastion of diversity, because it was not. However, I am fascinated by these discussions and how they're being had in these smaller little pockets of the evangelical world, and I like exploring it. So let's talk about like the day-to-day, right? Like the session by session. Somebody would come and give a talk, then there'd be a panel discussion, then there'd be some mingling in between sessions. People would grab lunch, they'd crack up in the green room, talk theology between the walls, and then all of it culminated in this big behemoth of a Christian rap concert there at the pier on Oceanside Pier, the big amphitheater there. This thing was a doozy. There were panel discussions, late night conversations over burgers, Q&As, and a whole host of really sincere and earnest conversations with people who are going through stuff. And I know that some people want me to come in with a wrecking ball and just crap on this thing unilaterally, but I can't, because it means a lot to some people, and for some people, I think it's good. I've got my critiques though, so stick around. There were probably 30-ish speakers and panelists and stuff like that, but I spent a lot of time in the green room talking to other YouTubers about stuff, so I obviously didn't catch everything. So I can't comment on or criticize everything, including this session. Wasn't there for that. What the hell is going on? But the talks had a lot of variety in them. A lot of good, a lot of meh, and a lot of bah. So let's start with the good. At its best, I think that there are some speeches here and some speakers here who gave talks that make Christians better. They make them better friends. They make them better neighbors. And I'm really excited to be in proximity of that. Gavin Ortland is a famous Protestant online apologist, and in his talk, he has this whole portion where he urges people to get offline and go talk to people in person, which is the thing that I'm always trying to urge people to do. He has this whole segment where he talks about the sins of church history, and he's a Protestant apologist and defends Protestantism, but spent time claiming, hey, this is our history collectively, and we don't get to dodge the responsibility of taking ownership for the crappier parts of church history. Chef's kiss. Wonderful. Wonderful. Glenn Scrivener gave a really beautiful presentation on the Trinity, talking about how divine love was present from eternity past between the members and the persons of the Trinity. And Nate Sala gave a really moving presentation on how mercy should be at the core of our gospel presentation. He actually recounted this story that struck close to home for me. He told this story about how in the town of Wheaton, where I went to college, there was like an ex-convicts ministry where like people who had recently been released from the prison system had a place to go to get like refamiliarized with regular life. And the suburban Christians shut it down because they were scared of their family's safety. And Nate called that out as hypocritical and unchristlike. Amen. One of the highlights of the whole event was getting to hear Mike Winger speak a little bit. And Mike Winger and I, like everyone else at this conference, would disagree on a lot. But Mike Winger is one of these people on YouTube who I think is making the Christian world better. Mike has been doing this series of videos where he talks about cover-up culture, and he's doing what would conventionally be considered like a takedown piece, right? You know, he's exposing this or that bad pastor. But like, dude, he does it with such tact and gentleness and precision that's really, really commendable. And it's not just that he does it well, it's that he does it ethically. Like, he's been exposing some grifters from Bethel, which was kind of a similar Pentecostal stream to the one that I was in. And like, he's doing a lot. He's platforming victims, and he's coming with receipts. And he's actually getting people who are bad actors to step down from ministry and, you know, seek counseling. And he's actually getting the nasty parts of religion to clean up their shit. He's not perfect. We're going to disagree about 1,001 things, but like, he's done a lot of good work, and that deserves to be called out. So let's talk about some of my favorite parts of this whole thing. First and foremost, hanging out with the Latter-day Saints. My boys. This is so real. This is so funny. I hope they don't get crap for this. Cade and Baylor from All Those in Favor took me out to a casino, and we hit a blackjack table, and I made money.
In my Mormon cruise video, I said, don't go to the casinos because it's stupid, but I just won, so.
It's actually electric.
It's actually awesome. Gambling is fun again. Download Polymarket today with my download.
That was the most fun I've ever had in my whole damn life. And double shout out to Baylor. We were in the car and we're driving back to the hotel, and I told him, like, Baylor, dude, I really like your necklace. And he goes, brother, say no more. And as he's driving, like with his kneecap, he's taking the necklace off and literally hands me the necklace off his back. That's some Matthew 5 type-ish. So that was a good time. Another good time was Shane Smith, face tat comedian guy. Apparently now he's Catholic.
I look up and there's Jesus on the cross, and I was like, that's the guy, I know him. And I was just like, all right, I'll just talk to him like he's here. And very awkwardly, I was just like, what's up, big dog? Like, that was...
And so on the second to last night there, he did a set, and it was rated PG. There was no swearing, no naughty, but it was a pretty top tier set. It was really good, not gonna lie.
There's about to be a couple minutes of child abuse material.
The other thing that was probably my favorite part of this whole thing was the green room. Just getting to hang out with Cade and talk to some of these big YouTubers who are 10 times bigger than me, kind of behind the scenes, behind closed doors. I probably should have started with this. There are a slew of people here who make content that I really dislike. And one of the most sacred things to me is the privilege of being able to talk to those content creators about it in person and gently confront them about it in person. Because I could show you, crappy clips of crappy things that some of these people have said, and get you all whipped up into a frenzy. And I don't think that's going to make you better or kinder or more gentle. And I don't think it's likely to make any of those people less likely to make bad content. But the privilege of having enough rapport with some of these people to be able to walk up to them and say, hey man, that video made me really uncomfortable. Or say, hey man, that thing that you said on Twitter really hurt my feelings. Or to be able to call them or text them and say, hey brother, I'm sorry, but like, I think you were really wrong and really hurtful in your last video. I like seeing people not as caricatures, but as 3D flesh and blood human beings, and getting to actually be in proximity with some of these people and talk to them about what I think are some harmful ideas means the world to me. It won't stop me from calling out bad ideas, but I think that the individual changes that I'm trying to make are happening behind the scenes. So let's talk about the big climax of the trip for me, which was my discussion with Shawn McDow.
I'm about to throw up.
My talk is on how Christians can not act like fools to their non-believing neighbors. How they can like be chill, like be cool, like be chill, and like be love Jesus and stuff like that.
All of this is very novel to me. This is my first like bona fide speaking engagement as an atheist YouTuber. And it also didn't help that it was in a room full of sheep and I'm a wolf.
Show our atheist friend a lot of love. Make him feel warm.
The stakes felt pretty high, I'm not gonna lie, with Shawn McDow. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but can I spill the tea? Can I talk about it? Can I? I had been preparing for this for months. Like, I wanted to be locked in. So I'm in between reading like 2 of his books. I've seen dozens of his videos. And then backstage, they're micing us up and putting the headset thingies on us. And we're talking and introducing ourselves. And he's like, so, what's your deal? He had no idea who I was. And so I was like, oh, brother, oof. And I was trying to give him a crash course thing on who I am and say like, yeah, no, I'm an atheist. No, but like not that kind of atheist. Like we're not going there. And so I like brought him up to speed on like the kind of conversation that I was anticipating us having. And he was like, okay, well, word. We got on stage and we dive right into it. Yeah, man, I don't know. Things felt heavy, like very quickly, and I was kind of anticipating it too. It actually went kind of exactly how I imagined it. And I would say that there were a couple of like pensive or challenging moments in the conversation.
Yeah.
Let me ask one last question.
Okay.
What would you do tomorrow if you found out Christianity categorically is not true? What would you do if you found the corpse of Christ?
I'll be posting that full discussion here on the channel soon. But suffice it to say that it was a really meaningful discussion. It meant a lot to me, and apparently it meant a lot to a lot of the people there because there was no shortage of people wanting to shake my hand or say thank you, which is weird, right? For the bad guy at an atheist convention. Part of the reason why I believe that it's so important to visit faith communities in person is in part so that you see them, right? But then the other side of that is so that they see you. And the number of people who ran up to me after my talk and told me, hey man, thank you for reminding me that atheists are just people. That meant the world to me. And I care about these people too much to let them create a fabrication of what an atheist is in their heads. I don't want their conception of what an atheist is to be solely informed by what their pastor says an atheist is, or what their favorite Christian author says an atheist is. I'm happy to be baby's first atheist, because if I'm not there, if Cade's not there, if other atheists are not there, then all of it's conjecture. All of it's speculation. And when you don't have a flesh and blood example of who the other is, it's easier to villainize them. So I think it's wildly important that I was there, and I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity. And I think being seen is especially important for my YouTube friends. I think it's less important in my mind to make a video response to something crappy or lousy they've said on the internet. And I think it's more important to be with them in person so that anytime they feel tempted to talk crap about atheists or the godless, I want to pop in their mind.
Okay, what's up? Jared here. It's day 2. It's been pretty mid so far. I've had like 3 different people run up to me and scream, "You're going to hell." Then I listened to Gavin Ortlund give a talk on how 18-point Calvinism is coming back. And then Glenn Scrivener over here, he walked by and said, he said that Buddhism is making a comeback and it's a good thing. So I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it a lot.
Lies. He tells lies.
All of this was super fascinating. And I think it's worth letting Cade chime in with his thoughts on it.
Okay, where are we at?
We're at the Bless God Summit of 2026, hosted by Ruslan KD. We are in a different world, it feels like.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, you get a lot of people who care about religion, don't care about religion, have all sorts of different beliefs.
Yeah.
Here, everyone's involved, and then there's new dividing lines and debates once you already have a group of people who are very passionate, very learned about religion. In the Catholic world, there is a very specific accent that priests have from going to seminary, being around each other. There's a cadence.
Yeah.
There's a phraseology, there's a language. I don't know the evangelical world as well, but it is clear when it's like, oh, you talk about these issues all the time and they'll come up and just immediately dive in.
Sure.
Versus people who come up and say, they're like working their way up to a conversation versus people that are like ready to just absolutely go on the turn of a dime with arguments and ideas and thoughts that they've said at least a couple dozen times.
Right.
Versus I've heard things, now I'm going to say them, versus I've said a lot of things, I was just another atheist at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think it is great that people are exercising their empathy, that they have someone that they can practice talking with.
Right.
That is receptive. Things get weird when both people aren't sure how to talk about it, but are going into big conversations.
Right.
I enjoy that people are starting on a nice note They're trying to find as much good in your position and your talk as they can first, and acknowledging that. And then there's often a idea that they want to share or a word that they want to share. And it's great to see that people can have civil conversations and they're clearly caring, even if things might not, be the best way to phrase it. There's many things to say about what people are saying, but they all seem very, very genuine, in that there's not a great gotcha after they start that. I think that in polarized conversations, if you've only heard about the other side from your side, you're gonna get into a very bad position very quickly. Whether it's left or right or religious or not religious, or this city council member versus the other town, if you've never actually had a conversation with the people that you've been told about, you are going to fall victim to your leaders telling you things that are not accurate about those people. I also think the deeper we get into all of these niche intra-Christian conversations that we've been seeing, the more I realize that we're all the same at the end of the day, where we're wrestling with big ideas and people want to make mountains out of molehills. Even just on the Trinity is like, you're saved or you're not saved. It's like, man, you both are believing in Jesus, and not that you can't have a discussion here, but you're both wrestling with your own faith traditions. I think people in different stages of deconstruction are like, everyone's got to leave, nobody's got to leave. It's like, man, we're all in the same camp here. Like, there are no villains, I think, at the end of the day, that the wars and the debates that we have are by people with good intentions, even if we think that they're leading people in a particular direction. Your opposition doesn't wake up and go, I want to do evil. Or I want to wake up today and be ignorant about topics and never investigate anything. Your opposition cares about people. Your opposition is doing the best that they can with the resources that they're given. And the harm that you might see in a particular movement is not going back to one person. Even if I think some of those intentions lead down bad roads, there are no villains. Hurt is real, but I don't think it's done by someone who intends to hurt at the end of the day.
Now, I'm going to come back to my discussion with Shawn at the end of this video, because there's something, I need to rant about something. Prepare your panties, because so all of that was the good. There's more good, but all of that stuff was good. Let's talk about some of the quirky stuff, some of the meh stuff. There was a speed dating portion of the conference.
Seems like he's out there go-getting, doing
worship
stuff.
leader? You a worship leader, bro? Yeah, he's a worship leader. Come on. I love that. That means he could,
raise someone up with some worship, I guess.
Like, it wasn't real speed dating. It was kitschy. It was cute. It was adorable. It was fun. Oh, okay. It wasn't that they did this thing, because it's fine. It's fine that they did this thing. I think it was fun. But some of their takes that I saw on stage were so bad. So Ruslan and his co-host, they were taking submissions from the audience, right? So like, hey, text in your Instagram profile and we'll rate it on stage to see how good or not good of a Christian spouse you might be. Oh God, the takes were so bad. They would just be like, they're on their phone, like rating people's random Instagram profiles and projecting it onto the screen so that everyone could see. And most of these people were in the audience, so they were just sitting there watching Ruslan and this woman, like, just, talk about how fit they would be as Christian dating material. There was some like really silly finger wagging, like anytime like yoga pants were seen.
I'm a yoga pants in private, not in public kind of girl.
But then it was like there would be a profile of a woman, and the comment would be, wow, she's dressed so modestly.
Very modestly dressed for the gym.
The shirt is over the yoga pants.
Yeah.
That was a word for some of y'all.
And it would be like, a girl wearing a shirt that doesn't have cleavage, but like every picture would be like her, like doing the duck lips, and it would just be like 50 selfies.
I don't see any thirst traps.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, girl. She's a gorgeous girl.
Modest at the beach.
Got her.
Like the most vain thing. And like that's not called out. It's like nope, she's modest and she has a Bible verse in her bio. And so I love the idea that like, you know, the people on stage are co-signing like, wow, this person looks like a really great Christian husband material. And he's like this crazed narcissist who tries to cover it up and mask it with a Bible verse. And then on stage, they were like, and if you like Jimmy's profile, be sure to shoot him a DM. I want to believe so badly that the train wreck relationship of the century started in that room at that conference.
What are you hoping's in there? Gold?
Shut up. Just let me finish what I'm saying before you start. Because it's frustrating.
Okay, Dick.
It makes me feel unheard.
Okay.
I hope there's some gold.
So that was fun. Good times all around. Also about this time, this was said from stage. This is an exact quote. Modern feminism is men suck, kill all the babies, and be trans. I am about to take the Lord's name in vain so hard right now. You know what really makes me want to be a traditional man? When somebody depicts feminism as being the most knuckle-dragging, glue-huffing ideology out there. Man, can you imagine depicting someone's ideology accurately and in good faith? Of course not. That'd be stupid, idiot. Dumb fuck. And like, it's an evangelical conference, right? And so there were several things like that. I don't know, man. It's like my skin is thicker than most. I can kind of deal with, you know, most of the crap that the evangelicals want to like, you know, smirk and say about the atheist folk. But I think that like if anyone else was in the room, they would have lost their cookies. They would have been hurling at how dismissive and hand-waving away some of the comments were to me and my friends, and that hurts my feelings, right? I don't want to cut this both ways, because I don't really have a whole lot of patience for the, you know, sky daddy atheists or the, oh, you worship a zombie atheists. That's not my MO either. But like, that courtesy can be extended both ways. It's appreciated. I think it's productive towards a healthy conversation, and hey, maybe you'll even convert people better if you do that. I don't know, like who's to say? And so this is kind of getting into the bad stuff now. We went from the good, we saw a little bit of ugly me. I mentioned that like this crowd is conservative but not MAGA. However, that's not to say that sometimes they don't have occasionally bad flavors mixed in. So one gentleman I was talking to said something along the lines of like, well, Jared, you know, at least we can agree that the wave of radical Islamization taking over America is bad, right? And I don't know, like if I was an evangelical and I knew that people who needed Jesus were being shipped to me, I didn't even have to go on a mission trip, I think that would make me really happy. So it kind of hurts my heart to hear like, oh man, the bad guys are coming. You mean the ones that you're supposed to love and minister to?
To the atheist watching this telecast, if our belief in God offends you, move. We don't want you and we won't miss you. I promise you.
Now, some of that's there, but I don't want to let that overshadow everything because they were doing prison ministry there. They were doing hurricane disaster relief. They were promoting things that were really good, but you know, there's still some of that less than wonderful stuff there as well. And that was actually a large point of my talk that I had with Shawn McDow, is that I don't want Christians to be more afraid of their neighbor than they are excited to share the gospel with them. And so there's some like flavors of that conversation that I think are just bad. Like they're, you know, outside of religion, I just think they're bad for humans. And yet I'll be really bummed out if everyone's grand takeaway from this video is evangelicals bad, because that also hurts my heart. And so being there at the conference, it's weird, right? Because it's a constant roller coaster. You hear a really good take and then you hear a really bad take. You hear something absolutely incredible, somebody talking about the crucifixion or the Trinity or anything. And then you'll hear them make a really lousy take or default to culture war crap. And then you sit down with these people, man, and they're like this messy cacophony of contradictions, and it is what it is. One particular criticism that I really want to make, and like I really want my conservative evangelical friends to hear me on this. I don't want to cast shade on people for being conservative or for being Christian. But when your Christianity sounds indistinguishable from Fox News, you lose me. This doesn't sound like the gospel. It doesn't sound like Christianity. It doesn't sound like Jesus. It just sounds like boomer rambling, complaining stuff.
Dad, you don't think Christianity is about helping other people? What do you think it's about?
I think it's you believe in Jesus Christ and you're a Christian, and that's how you get into heaven. Has nothing to do with loving the Muslims.
So there is one thing that I do very much have to complain about. My talk with Shawn McDow was a wild doozy of a time. I will say I was very nervous, and then on the stage, man, I don't really know what happened. You can't quite tell from the video, but the tension in the room, it wasn't tense, but it just felt thick, felt weighty, like somebody had sucked the air out of the room a little bit. I got some thoughts out that I've been ruminating on for a long time. And I probably said some stupid stuff, but overall, I think I'm pretty happy with how everything went down. However, there was one part of the conversation that I want to talk about. And I only feel at liberty to talk about it, one, because I was there, it was me, and two, because Ruslan is a friend, and I feel like I have enough rapport with him to bring this up. Yeah, man, after we got off stage, I walked over to him, give him a hug, but then told him, I'm going to give you a noogie for the curveball that you threw at me at the end. And that curveball was this question.
Could you grant, for the sake of argument, that even the idea of caring for and engaging with those people that are often mistreated in society is the downstream effect, or the way as Glenn Scrivener would describe, a Christian-ish value?
I know how this goes. I know the risk that I was taking by speaking at a Christian conference. It kind of feels like what's being done here is there was a little bit of fishing for my equivalent of Richard Dawkins saying that he's a cultural Christian. Like, if I say the right line, then Christians will clip farm me and replay that one clip over and over and over again. Occasionally they'll put sad music and an edgy filter in front of it. And it just feels kind of lame. And sincerely, it makes conversations like this substantially less fun. There's this weird sentiment that's going on right now in the Christian world, this idea that's gaining a lot of steam and that gets passed around a lot, which is basically that all of modern ethics derives its core foundational values from Christianity. And it's so frustrating, right? Because it overstates its case just enough that I feel the need to correct it. I'm sorry, dog, but you don't get to belittle or downplay the significance of Jainism on our modern practices of nonviolence and non-retaliation. You don't get to retroactively claim credit for Aristotelian philosophy's contributions to human ethics. And this whole venture just feels like it's trying to score Christian culture points, and it just feels lame to me. And it feels rude. Anytime there's a huge humanitarian breakthrough that happens, if some Christian nudges me and is like, hey, did you know that we get to take credit for that? I'm not any more interested in converting to Christianity, especially if it's just straight up not true. And then confusingly, Ruslan mentioned, how in the Middle East, gay people are treated notoriously badly. And I shouldn't have to be the person to need to point this out, that was here. It was 10 minutes ago here.
Their son Matthew Shepard was robbed, beaten, tied to a fence, and left to die. The anti-gay hate crime became a rallying cry for activists.
There's no such thing as gay rights. People use that as a buzzword, as a flash word. It's equal rights.
That it was illegal to be gay and practicing. Sodomy laws are very recent. And this is just the most confusing thing in the world to me, that credit wants to be taken for nations like Sweden and Norway and how well they treat gay people, while at the same time Christians in America are fighting to repeal safeguards against my queer friends. It's very bizarre to me to want to claim credit for how well the LGBTQ crowd in Norway and Sweden are treated, and then at the same time actively disagree with those policies that make them treated so well. But then again, I'm not interested in having this conversation. This isn't my shtick to, promote atheism to people. Everyone knows that. But I'm bringing it up because it feels like a sentiment that's continually gaining traction, and it feels like the kind of sentiment that is exactly contrary to Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan. The whole point of that story is to say, hey, sometimes our atheist and ungodly neighbors are doing it better than we are. And rather than bickering about who gets to take credit for it, I think that saying, hey, this is a good lesson for us, and I'm happy to learn from my Muslim neighbors or my Jain neighbors or my communist neighbors or whoever the hell. And so if we were to superimpose this idea, this ideology onto that story, the story would have been a good Samaritan was walking down the road and he found a poor boy beaten up and bloodied on the side of the road. And then he took him to a hospital, gave him lodging, and then a Christian came by and said, we basically did that, right? But then, even more basically, this fails at a relational level, and it kind of hurts my feelings. Because what I'm hearing at an individual level is, hey, Jared, anytime you do something shitty, it's because of your humanism, your secularism, your feminism. And every time you do something decent, it's just the vestigial wisps of your Christian indoctrination poking through. It's kind of hurtful. And I think that that's an excellent launching point to dive in to the last thing I want to talk about, which is what's wrong with evangelicals. And even more pointedly, why are evangelicals cheesy? Man, my Christian homies, I hope you guys can forgive me for talking about this one. Again, when I say evangelicals, I'm not invoking cultural, political baggage. I'm just talking about this strand of Christians who are Protestants, who believe in the Bible, and who actively want to share their faith with you. And that last part is their namesake. That's where they get their name from. Evangelical comes from euangelion, meaning to share good news. And as I've hopscotched around a bunch of different religions, there's something very uniquely weird about religions that are very eager to share religion with you. And in the case of these Christians here, it often manifests itself by being really cheesy.
Hey, Scotty. Jesus, man.
And I think that cheesiness can be attributed to a few things, a few conflicting factors. You'll hear over and over again in the evangelical world the verse about how you're supposed to be in the world but not of the world. And usually what that translates to is you can be culturally American but, devotedly Christian. Now, I don't want to pick on these people too hard, but just a tiny bit. Most of the interactions that I had were really, really solid, but occasionally I sniffed a big ol' whiff of cheese. And I think that cheesiness is an outgrowth of their desire to share their religion with me. It kind of feels like a sales tactic. And so occasionally you'll run into kind of like the cool guy, chill Christian persona, and it's like, hey man, like that's chill. I'm just a guy, But Jesus Christ really is the most important thing in my life. Have you ever heard about him? And I sometimes feel bad for people who have to straddle this weird line of just being a guy who wants to make a friend, but then feel like you have to constantly pitch this thing like it's an MLM. And you're coached through it, man. It's always in the back of your mind. You always got to be ready for the sale.
When you die and you stand before God, what are you going to say?
But then you also need to be culturally relevant so you don't look weird and sectarian. So, let's get into the Christian rap scene. Let's get into the Christian metal scene. Let's, have our own cool, trendy clothing line. And can I be so for real? This was a thing that actually gave me real duress when I was an evangelical, because I remember so vividly what it feels like to, have these heavy, weighty emotions, but then still feel the need to put a smile on and sometimes things are hard and difficult, and sometimes our theology doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you can't admit that because you still got to sell it. And weirdly enough, I don't think I've ever made this connection, but a lot of the really edgy forms of Christian tough guy stuff, I think a lot of it is compensating for that duress that people feel. It's this really weird vibe where I need to tell you about Jesus and how he loves you very much, this I know, and also I'm pissed. Sometimes it feels some of the hardcore Christians or some of the edgy Christians are straight up bitter about the fact that they feel the need to evangelize to you, and they know that they need to keep it kind of squeaky clean and PG, and that ultimately they need to convince you at the end of it. It can't just be a fascination of theirs. It can't just be a devotion that's really sacred to them. It needs to be external. It needs to be performative to some degree, or else you're not going to hear the message. So that's why, as people are on stage flipping through people's Instagram bios, they have to say, hey, you don't have a Bible verse in your bio. What gives? That's why they have to make Christian merch with Yahweh on a baseball cap. And that's why the climax of this whole event was a big, fat, free to the public, open air Christian rap concert.
They tell you if we fall off, we got cloned. We don't warn, we coming in homes. Don't be telling
And again, credit where credit is due. Stuff like this is expensive, it is difficult to pull off, and it's just impressive. And yet, it still feels like a sales pitch. And I get it. That this religion, this spiritual faith that these believers practice, they will say, well, it's just the most important thing in my life, and I just want to share it with you. But I'm not convinced that they would share it with me as much as they do if heaven and hell weren't on the line and if there wasn't an explicit mandate to share it with me. And when you get outside of the evangelical sphere, things feel less cheesy. The kind of cheese that I'm talking about is like, hey brother, I get it. I was raised in a Christian household and I went through my own doubts when I was a kid. But you know, I realized along the way and through reading a couple of Frank Turek books that God is true. I love shitting on Frank Turek. I remember this so vividly of like being in the Christian metal scene and being like, I just want my Christian metal to be edgier and more hardcore and more cutthroat and like, but also I still need to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to these people that I'm moshing with. And I think it was just like because I was embarrassed about feeling the need to share this thing with people. It felt like a product that I was commissioned to shell out, rather than like an earnest, sincere spirituality. And let me say this, the concert was fun. It was a big hoopla, and KB was on stage tearing it up left and right, and there were a couple of, presentations of the gospel, some preaching that was done, and I don't know, man. Consistently, the sales pitch of evangelicalism just doesn't feel very impressive to me. Like we've kind of heard it before. What is consistently more impressive to me is when people talk about the majesty of the Christian message, when people talk to me about divine aseity and the transcendence of God. And candidly, when people don't say anything at all. I have this memory when I was in high school of going to a Catholic church, and I walked into the back and didn't know where to sit, and I just kind of stumbled in, and I found my classmate there. And she was sitting in the back with a veil over her head, and she was there alone, praying the rosary. I don't even think I ever said hi to her. But the outline of her devotion, like the silhouette of her praying there, it stuck in my brain for forever. And somehow that is a stronger witness in itself than any come to Jesus sermon that I've heard in the past several years. So, all in all, the Bless God Summit was an incredibly fun time. And I can't stress this enough, man. The joy and the privilege that I have of getting to explore communities like this in person and cutting through the noise and the bullshit and hearing about earnest people talk about their earnest struggles with faith and with God. It means everything to me. So my plea to you is go and explore communities you disagree with, whether you're a Christian, an atheist, or somewhere in between, or somewhere way out there in the weeds. Shout out to my Zoroastrian friends. Go and learn about people, and go turn caricatures into humans.
This is a prophetic word. I'm not endorsing it. I don't know what it says. If it's heresy, it's not my fault. All right. For Jared, that someone gave me.
No, if this is bad, this reflects poorly on the entirety of the Bless God Summit.
No, I was about to say, and all religions at the same time.
Hey Jared, I don't know how you or your work, but while you were speaking, dude, it broke my heart. For my part, I heard you, I saw you, I am sorry for your pain. I spent 10 years wrestling with God in deep depression over faith, and I get the pain. Sometimes I experience a sense of the Lord speaking to me. This isn't meant as manipulation, I promise, and I did not make this up. Do with it as you please, but this is what I heard. Jared, I saw you that night in the bedroom when you walked away, and I cried. That is actually very sweet. And very beautiful.
Miraculous things can't happen.
That's it? That's the word.
That's it.
It's a good word.
Good word.
Let's pray.
No.
Oremus.
What's got you? Sneaking it. Sorry. Sneak evangelism. There wasn't that room.
Also, peep the merch. It's funny. It's like you. That. Go listen to Jake Sandvik's new album. There's Somewhere I Do on Spotify now. Go listen to it. It's great. I love it. It's so good. I listen to it all the time. I was just in Iceland. I listened to it in Iceland with my homies in Iceland. It was great. It was fun. So, my name is Jared. I'm an atheist. Go to church.
Go to church!